I always found solace in nighttime drives. The world seemed quieter, more serene under the blanket of darkness. It was a Friday night, and I had just left a friend's house after an evening of drinks and laughter. The forest route home was quicker, and besides, I enjoyed the isolation it provided. The first sign of trouble was subtle, a whisper of unease that trickled down my spine. The headlights of my car sliced through the dense forest, casting eerie shadows that danced and flickered like malevolent spirits. The road, usually familiar and comforting, seemed foreign and treacherous tonight. I brushed off the feeling, attributing it to the late hour and the alcohol. I turned up the radio, letting the music fill the void. The trees stood tall and silent on either side of the narrow road, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. I focused on the asphalt ahead, trying to ignore the creeping dread that gnawed at my senses. As I rounded a bend, the car's headlights caught something in the periphery of the beam, a fleeting glimpse of a figure standing by the roadside. My heart skipped a beat. It had to be my imagination, a trick of the light. But when I glanced in the rearview mirror, I saw nothing but darkness swallowing the road behind me. I pressed on, the tires humming against the pavement. The forest seemed to close in around me, the air growing colder. My breath fogged up the windshield slightly, and I turned on the defroster. That's when I noticed the lights. Faint, almost imperceptible at first, they flickered in the distance, weaving through the trees. They moved erratically, like fireflies trapped in a jar. I slowed the car, curiosity getting the better of me. Who else would be out here at this hour? Maybe it was a campfire, or kids playing pranks. As I drew closer, the lights became more distinct, revealing themselves to be lanterns. Figures moved around them, cloaked in darkness, their features obscured. A chill ran through me as I realized they were standing in a clearing arranged in a circle. I couldn't make out what they were doing, but the atmosphere felt wrong, ominous. Instinct screamed at me to drive away, but my curiosity held me captive. I turned off the radio and rolled down the window, the night air rushing in. It was then I heard it, a low, rhythmic chanting carried on the breeze. The words were indecipherable, but the tone was unmistakable. It was a ritual, something ancient and powerful. I knew I had to leave, but as I reached for the gear shift, the car stalled. Panic surged through me. I twisted the key in the ignition, but the engine sputtered and died. The chanting grew louder, closer. I glanced in the mirror and saw them, the figures from the clearing, now moving towards me, their lanterns bobbing like will-o'-the-wisps. I locked the doors, my hands trembling. The figures reached the car, their faces still hidden in the shadows. One of them raised a hand and pressed it against the driver's side window. I recoiled, my heart pounding in my chest. The hand was old and withered, the skin pale and mottled. "Help me," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the sound of my own breathing. The figure outside leaned closer, and for the first time I saw its eyes. They were hollow, empty voids that seemed to pull at my very soul. I screamed, the sound echoing through the car. The others joined in, surrounding the vehicle, their chanting growing louder and more frenzied. I fumbled with my phone, trying to dial for help, but there was no signal. The screen flickered and died, leaving me in darkness. Desperation clawed at me as I pounded on the horn, hoping someone, anyone, would hear. Then, without warning, the car's headlights went out, plunging me into complete blackness. The chanting stopped, replaced by a deafening silence. I could hear my own heartbeat, rapid and erratic, like a trapped animal. A soft tap on the window made me jump. I turned slowly, dread pooling in my stomach. The figure was still there, its face now pressed against the glass. It smiled, revealing rows of sharp, pointed teeth. "Join us," it whispered, the words slithering into my mind. I screamed again, the sound tearing through my throat. The car door rattled as the figures outside tried to open it. I kicked at the window, my survival instincts kicking in. Somehow I managed to crawl into the back seat, putting more distance between myself and the monsters outside. Just as I thought I was out of options, the car roared to life on its own. The headlights blazed, illuminating the forest. The figures recoiled, their faces twisted in fury. I didn't question my luck. I scrambled back into the driver's seat and floored the accelerator. The car surged forward, the tires screeching against the asphalt. The figures gave chase, their lanterns flickering wildly. But I didn't look back. I couldn't. I focused on the road ahead, my knuckles white, as I gripped the steering wheel. The forest seemed to stretch on forever, but eventually the trees began to thin, and I saw the faint glow of city lights in the distance. Relief washed over me, but I didn't slow down until I was back on familiar roads, the forest far behind me. I pulled into my driveway, my hands still shaking. I sat in the car for a long moment, trying to process what had happened. The memory of those hollow eyes and that chilling whisper haunted me. I never took the forest route again. The solace I once found in nighttime drives was forever tainted by the terror I had encountered. And though I tried to convince myself it was all a hallucination, a trick of the mind, I couldn't shake the feeling that something ancient and malevolent still lingered in those woods, waiting for the next unsuspecting traveler to wander into its grasp.